So this was the official end to the Baratie arc, and I've got to say, I couldn't have even imagined a more perfect and beautiful and tearjerker ending if I tried. This whole episode focuses on Sanji leaving the Baratie and his struggle with it. And originally, he wasn't even going to leave, even after that fight with Don Krieg and everything like that. He was going to stay with the Baratie because, this is his home. He needs to protect it. After that giant attack, I think he probably felt even more responsibility to stay with the Baratie to make sure it was safe and continue feeding those that are starving. However, he's talking to Luffy, and what I noticed was it was like the first time he had smiled in ages, and you can see almost the childhood version of himself when he's explaining what the all blue is to Luffy and that big smile he has on his face. He looks like he does when he's a kid, when we see him as a kid. When he's talking about it, you can tell that's what he wants. He needs to find the all blue. That's why Zeph rescued him originally, and why they formed this bond was over that dream. Do you know what I mean? So when he's talking to Luffy about this thing, it's a really beautiful moment to see Sanji smile like that. And Zeph overhears it, so he forms like a plan basically to try and drive him out of the Baratie because, Sanji isn't going to just leave. He just won't. So, he gets all the chefs to essentially say Sanji's the soup that Sanji makes is disgusting while Sanji's there. So it like drives him out of the restaurant. He gets pissed, and even Zeph smacks him and say, "You'll never be as good as a cook of me. I've cooked all over the world, and you'll never catch up to me." They try and drive him out that way. But that doesn't really work. Sanji just gets upset. But as he's coming back, he can hear Zeph and everybody talking about the fact that he's actually an amazing cook. And Zeph just wants him to go and live his dream. And it's a really sweet moment. Do you know what I mean? You see it a lot throughout this episode that Sanji is still just a kid with a dream. And he's pretty much his father figure. He's not just his mentor. You can tell their bond is much stronger than just like a mentor-student relationship. They clearly have like a father-son relationship, and it gets shown again beautifully in this episode. There's a moment where they're both reminiscing of when they both opened the Baratie, and they still talk to each other the same. Sanji still calls him like an old geezer, and Zeph still calls him like a little brat. That's the sort of the relationship they have, but there's something like really genuine about that. And Zeph obviously just wants the best for Sanji. He wants him to live his dream like any dad would for their son, essentially, is what it is. And I don't know, man. Their relationship is one of my favorites in the series so far, for sure. When Sanji does agree to travel with Luffy and the crew and find the All Blue, as he's about to leave, Zeph says, "Don't catch a cold" to him, and Sanji just breaks down in tears. I guess you could say that the mask sort of slips from Sanji. Do you know what I mean? Like this whole time he's being like quite aggressive towards Zeph. They're both being aggressive towards each other, but this moment when he's about to leave and Zeph says that to him, you can just tell it all gets to him, and he's just like, yeah, he breaks down in tears and says thank you to Zeph for everything he's done. He just shows his gratitude towards him. All the chefs start crying, Zeph starts crying, I start crying. I'm like, man, this series is unbelievable. I hope One Piece never stops doing these like stories, man, because these character arcs and stuff like that, just the way it tells its stories and the way it all like comes together. Man, the emotional depth this series has with its characters is literally, it's like unparalleled, man. It's incredible. But yeah, absolutely incredible. My favorite arc so far, for sure. I suppose the next arc is going to be wherever Nami's going. Yosaku actually arrived at some point in this episode, in the mouth of a shark, saying, they were heading towards where Nami was, and if she's going where they think, she's going to a very dangerous place. And we see at the end of the episode, she's heading towards what looks like a little an island full of pirates. So we'll have to see where she's going. Obviously, to that Arlong is what it looks like. But yeah, we'll have to see. But that was the Baratie arc. I can't wait for the next one. This arc has been, yeah, perfect. Literally perfect.